Welcome to MSC Talks. So today we are going to break down the Singapore Grand Prix that just happened this weekend on September, I think it's 22nd. I don't remember, but that's fine. Quick rundown. Lando Norris won the Grand Prix. That's not entirely shocking. What is shocking is that he maintained his lap one lead, which was, I think, a big pain point in a lot of his races where he could have and should have won. Because don't get me wrong, I love Max, but I would like a different championship winner, and I do think that Lando Norris has it in him. But we'll get to why that not might not be the case. But first of all, Lando Norris, congratulations. He is my second favorite driver, so I am a little bit biased, but who isn't? Um, he won by 20-second margin. That is shocking to say the least, because I don't know why, because I'm a relatively new fan. So for me, a 20-second lead is usually just something that Max does because he's just Max, but apparently not. But one thing is he did not get the fastest lap time, which means he doesn't get the one extra point, which means that the championship is now going to play out very differently depending on what happens. It's a lot of ifs and buts, which in the long run doesn't really matter, but what is interesting to note is that, so I don't know if my math is correct or not, but I think, even if Lando wins every single race and Max comes second and he gets the fastest lap, because Daniel Ricciardo took that fastest lap from him, he might lose the championship, which is interesting to say the least. So that will create a lot of drama and tension. But here's the thing: I know in Max's post-interview race, he said that they will struggle on street circuits. So I think Vegas might come down to be a big deciding factor of whether Lando Norris is still even in contention for the championship, which I do want him to win, but it is getting kind of tough. Daniel kind of screwed him over, which I'm not upset. It might be his last race, so I'm good for him. Also, Daniel, driver of the day. Congratulations, Daniel Ricciardo. He is also one of my favorites, not like top, but like a tier below where it's like, yeah, I like he's one of my favorites, but not like Lando or Carlos level. Speaking of, okay, let's stick to Daniel for now. Daniel, it might be his last race. I don't think it's likely because I don't think that they would do him that dirty, but it is Red Bull Visa Cash App, so again, you never know. But I do think that he definitely does not have a seat for next season, and I think he might not race Austin onwards, which is quite sad. I do think he deserves a big send off for everything that he's done and everything. I mean, I guess the prince that never was, which I don't like that comparison, but it is very true. But he's had a phenomenal career. He's had an amazing career, and I think most drivers would dream to have a career like he has, and I think that is something that he should be proud of. But I do think he got done dirty, again and again and again. But that's not the point. Going back to the Grand Prix, thank you, Johnny Ricciardo, for an amazing career that you've had and the amazing races you have had. It has been an honor and I just started watching last year, but still, it's been an honor and a pleasure to see you on the track and just sort of see the light and the happiness you bring on the track. Next, Carlos. Carlos. He is my favorite driver. If you can't tell, I have a poster right up there. But Carlos. How do we get started on Carlos? Let's just say free practice 1, free practice 2, great qualifying down the gutter. Literally down the gutter. But I mean, it is what it is. We just have to accept the fact and move forward. I just hope I hope Ferrari doesn't shit the bed when it comes to Austin, because I will be going to that Grand Prix in person. So I hope that he doesn't please just don't, just don't screw it up. I beg, I please. But anywho, still kind of good. He started P10, dropped all the way down to P12, then P18, and then back to P7. That is very difficult to do, and you have to be really skilled to do that. So proud of that. I'm really happy about that. But I do think Ferrari needs to get it together. I definitely don't think. I mean, they definitely can't contend with Red Bull or Mercedes. Sorry, not Mercedes. Mercedes is in the shitter right now. I don't think they can contend with McLaren or with Red Bull for the constructors, but they can at least get third. I mean, they're definitely ahead of Mercedes for sure. But there are 6 races, things can change very quickly, and I just hope that they maintain their longevity, their usual strategy of sucking and then getting good. Sorry, they start off great, then they suck, and then they get good again near the end. So I hope that that continues moving forward. But I don't think Charles has a chance in the championship this year. I just think Lando and Max are just really far ahead. But I do think in a few years' time, or maybe with a little bit better luck, I do think that he can win, and I do think that that would be great for him. Um, Now speaking of Max, started P2, ended P2, 22nd gap to first place. I don't think that is a place that he's liking very much, but it is what it is. He dominated last year. This year he is not dominating anywhere near as much, which I think some people are happy about, some people are sad about. I know a lot of people who don't care for Max, but they hate Lando, so they're happy. I can't relate, don't understand, but you do you. Now speaking of Max's little community service, I think that his whole of giving short answers and then doing a press conference outside, I mean, that is really badass, and I do think that that's a really ballsy move to make, and it is Max, so I'm not really surprised that he did that. And I think it's a good thing. I mean, the FIA, it's Formula One. It's not something that's supposed to be family friendly. Again, we should be cognizant of what we say, but if it slips out, it slips out. A community service and a fine. Now speaking of the rest of the grid, Franco Colapinto. I know that he didn't get points, but he was pretty damn close. So he did really good this race. I'm actually genuinely surprised that he did that good. He did better than Alex Albon, who DNF'd. Um, I hope that doesn't continue because I really like Alex Albon. I mean, he has a seat, but I mean, see, yeah, the Singapore Grand Prix is really difficult. It gets really hot, and there's no safety car. Like, kind of a health hazard in my opinion, but yeah, no safety car, hot ass race. Max and Lewis, sorry, not Max, George and Lewis heat stroke. Red flag on that one. But I mean, you have to do what you have to do, and I do think that Abu Dhabi and I don't know if Abu Dhabi for sure is happening, but I think the other Middle Eastern races, the other Middle Eastern races that are left, I think will be as hot. So I hope the drivers sort of get used to it, but I do think it is going to be painfully difficult for them in those races. But next is Austin. I think Austin could have a big chance of defining of how this championship goes. Because all Lando has to do is to outrank him. You know, if he's coming P6 and Max is P8, or he's coming P2, Max is P5, that gap is shortening and shortening and shortening. And I do think the driver of the day will matter less. But if they're both 1-2, 1-2, 1-2, which I don't see happening, because there are races where Mercedes comes through, there are races where Ferrari comes through, and I'm still holding out hope that either Charles or I do think other race winners will define what this championship goes. And I do think that it will be very interesting to sort of see. I mean, they've been, 6 or 7 different race winners, which is very rare, which is really interesting. You know, I think a lot of people got into Formula One. I think this year and last year was a snooze fest, but this year has been amazing. Different race winner, and Max dominance has not been there. Red Bull have been shitting themselves, so thank God. I am truly, that last season was bad. It was bad, man. Okay, other people to talk about. Yuki. I don't know whether it's my Ricardo bias, but I do think Yuki is great. He's funny. He swears a lot, but that's just him, and that has a relevance. But I mean, I don't know how to feel about him. See, I do think he's overrated. Like, he's great, but I don't think he's like he deserves to go into Checo's seat. Great, you know. And I do think Checo is getting replaced. I would find that highly unlikely because they're losing the Constructors' Cup because of him. And that's no fault of his own. The car is bad, and ever since I think it was Monaco, his big crash, he's been teetering along a line that I don't think he has been able to recover from, which is, I mean, it's understandable, but I do think Red Bull is a very cutthroat team, and they're like, do good or bye, you know? So I don't know. I think maybe Yuki, maybe another driver, maybe I think they're trying to get George Russell in 26. Maybe Ricardo. We'll have to just wait and see how this month-long break goes. Um, for one, steak sour cake. I think that's the whole team name. Is not dead last. I mean, they're the bottom of the barrel. There are Dookie, but Pierre Gasly was dead last. Two DNFs. Kevin Magnussen, I'm not surprised. Man's a menace. But Bottas is, I think it was P16 or P17, and Zhou Guanyu was P15. So that is a really impressive showing for that car and those drivers. Do I think they're gonna have a seat next year? I don't think so. Yeah, sorry about that. I don't think they're gonna have a seat next year. I was trying to find my phone, but it's literally there. Um, I don't think that they're gonna have a seat for next year. I think it's gonna be very difficult for them to get a seat, especially Bottas. Zhou, he brings in sponsors. He's the only Asian on in the entire grid, so I think that might save him to get a reserve driver seat. I don't think he's going to be the main seat. In terms of the last Sauber seat, there are a few F2 people that are hearing names getting thrown around, but I do think it should go to Franco Colapinto. He has proved himself time and time again. He's a fan favorite already. And I do think that he deserves that seat, and he has future championship potential. Um, what to expect over this break, right? We have a month-long break. What can we expect? If Daniel is let go, I do think that announcement will happen, and I don't think he'll come to Austin, or at least he will and get a farewell. I don't see him racing in Austin if he's let go. If he's not, then we'll have to wait and see. Maybe something about Checo because they are slipping in the Red Bull Championship, and the Constructors Championship, and I don't think Christian Horner is really happy about that. Um, and also, I do think the Sauber seat might get announced. They should at this point. Like, that's the only last seat that people are gunning for, and I do think a decision needs to be made on who that seat goes to. But we'll just have to wait and see what happens, how things play out, and yeah, catch you on the next one.